Okay, this is part 2 of my trip to Antiques on the Farmington, a giant indoor flea market and antique mall in Collinsville, Connecticut. And I'm just taking a look at some stuff that I found interesting, like this Mr. Potato Head foot massager, which I've never seen anything like this before. I think it's from '96, it said. And I don't really understand what this is exactly. It shows you putting Mr. Potato Head on your hand or leg or whatever, and he massages you somehow. I don't know, it doesn't seem like it would work very well. Here's a nice O-gauge train set. Guessing 70s or 80s, most likely. That's probably a decent price for it, $95 for the whole set. I'm guessing, or hopefully you're getting the tracks and the transformer that are down here on the second shelf. Now this originally, I thought this was a Cabbage Patch Kid, but it's not. It's a, as it says, original doll baby by Martha Nelson Thomas. Apparently these came out before the Cabbage Patch Kid, and she claimed that the Cabbage Patch Kid was stolen from her. I guess there was a lawsuit eventually and they settled out of court, but yeah, you can tell that face is exactly the same as a Cabbage Patch Kid. Found some comics here, and like usual, they're bagged, but most of them don't have boards on them, and some of them aren't bagged, and of course they're in terrible condition. And they're generally from the late 80s, early 90s, which, again, 90% of the comics you'll see in these antique malls are going to be from this era. In this condition, they're really not worth much, maybe, a quarter each. And occasionally you'll find a good one in there, but most of them have been picked through pretty thoroughly. Now this is interesting. This is a planter pot where it looks like somebody cut out pages from a comic book and then pasted it onto the pot. This does not look like a commercial product to me, because I could actually feel the paper raised above the pot itself. But it was interesting. Good, nice idea. This guy had a lot of interesting stuff here. Kind of looks like one of my closets at home. Just a lot of random stuff. And I didn't figure out how to use this until afterwards when I was looking at the video. I think you push this along and the whole thing will bounce around like the engine's rumbling, but apparently when I was looking at it I couldn't figure that out. Now these, I think these were from a car dealership, these photos here. It looks like they would have been hung up in the dealership, just displaying what cars were on sale. If they were in a better condition, if they weren't all warped, I probably would have picked them up. I kind of like advertising stuff like that. Obviously they're from 1989. A nice old radio there, probably from the 40s, I'm guessing. I know my grandfather had one very similar to that. His was a Philco. Looked a little bit different, but essentially the same design. I think that radio is probably from the 70s. That would be my guess. If it works, that's probably a decent price. But the knobs were a little bit loose, so I didn't pick that up. And that telephone there, that's an original, because that handset probably weighed 2-3 pounds. The reproductions are feather light. Another great radio, probably 40s or 50s. Now these were interesting. These are Looney Tunes liquor bottles. I'm not sure if they still have the liquor in them, but I'm pretty sure these are bootleg. They don't look quite right to me. They're a little bit off, and I can't imagine Warner Brothers licensing Looney Tunes to sell alcohol. And obviously they were mass marketed, but they look very unprofessional. Looks like something a kid would have done in art class. And here's the rest of the set. So they do seem to have a complete set. So if you're looking for these, they do have them here. And I do have a complete set of these tune tumblers, I guess you'd call them, at home, like the Porky Pig one. I have a whole set. Those are from the mid-'70s. I think they were Burger King glasses. And then who remembers the Beanie Babies from the late 90s? They have a whole box from here. I remember when these were considered valuable. Now you can't give them away. I think that purple one might have been a limited edition, I remember reading somewhere. But now nobody wants it. I like this airplane here. It does kind of look homemade, but I like the look. I'm guessing that's probably 20s, 30s, most likely. I think that's what it says on the tag. And then this model was kind of cool. This is based on the Marvel Comics Abomination character from The Incredible Hulk. Doesn't look like he does in the comics, as far as I know. It looks more like just a classic monster look rather than the comic book version. But this one was actually overpriced. I looked online and they're not going for this much. They're going for about $50, and he was selling it for $75. So I definitely recommend always bring a smartphone with you when you're out at these stores so you can check prices online. Now these here are pretty cool. These are finger puppets. They're from, I think, the mid-'70s, 75 or so, and you basically push your finger up beneath them and then they dance. Nice Pez collection there. Don't know a lot about Pez. I have no idea how old those are. They look pretty new, but I don't know. On that Star Trek record there, that was from the early 80s after the original Star Trek movie. I think I have a complete set of those at home too. Now this is totally 1970s. This van here with the groovy galaxy background on it, really, it's groovy. And a random creepy mannequin. They have a pretty big record collection down here too. I don't really collect records that much. I do have my grandmother's collection, but I don't really actively collect. I have no idea if any of these are worth anything. I'm sure they've been picked over thoroughly. Looking for some Black Sabbath. I probably would have picked up a couple of those albums, but they seem to be all out. Another cool radio here. Never heard of DeWalt. So if you're into vintage radios from the 40s and 50s, this place definitely has a lot to choose from for sure. Nice 70s radio there. I love the silver with the wood grain on it. Huge collection of Hess trucks. I remember seeing commercials for those back in the 80s and 90s before Christmas. And a gas mask. I actually really like gas masks. I don't know why. I have a collection of about 10 of them and don't know why. Some nice old box cameras up there. And then a random point and shoot camera from the 90s. Now this is an original Cabbage Patch Kid. This is second year though, 1984. They came out in 83 and you can tell because the 83 box did not have the date on it. And some nice model trains again. Alright, so that'll do it for part 2 of my trip here, and hopefully I'll see you for part 3, if there is one. Like and subscribe. See ya!